Welcome to City Planning. We're ready, Mr. Moore.
Chair Dillon,
Here.
Vice Chair Barry, Commissioner Belt, Commissioner Bubbas,
Here.
Commissioner Bynum,
Here.
Commissioner Cox,
Here.
Commissioner Finney,
Here.
Commissioner Hamilton,
Here.
Commissioner Leahy,
Here.
Commissioner Latour, and Commissioner May. You have a quorum.
Thank you. We will need a motion for the minutes, please, for July 14th.
Yes, Madam Chair, I move for approval of the minutes of the July 14th, 2016 meeting of the Little Rock Planning Commission.
I'll second.
All in favor? And all opposed? The minutes will pass for July 14th. Okay.
We would need to remind the audience that any more cards, if you have a green card, be sure to turn it into.
We have any green cards that have come in since we started. If you want to speak tonight, we have to have a green card, please. Okay.
Okay. Following is the consent agenda for Little Rock Planning Commission, Planning Rezoning Conditional Use Hearing of August 25th, 2016. You have one item on consent withdrawal, item number 9, file number Z9154, Phillips Duplexes Conditional Use Permit, northwest corner of Holt and West 38th Streets. Staff recommends withdrawal of this conditional use permit application. Next, you have two items on consent deferral. Item number 1, Z9156, Hayes Parolee Probationary Housing Facility Special Use Permit, 2101 Simpson Street. On August 10th, the applicant requested this application be deferred to the October 6th agenda. Staff supports that request. Item number 2, Z9157, Johnson Group Care Facility, Special Use Permit, 1102 South Pulaski Street. On August 22nd, the applicant requested this application be deferred to the October 6th agenda. Staff supports that request. You will need a bylaw waiver on this item. Next are the items on consent approval. Item number 3, Z8846A, rezoning from R2 to M, north of the 15500 block of Lawson Road. Staff recommends approval of the requested M rezoning. Item number 5, Z6734F, Deal Revised Short Form PDR, 909 Cumberland Street. Staff recommends approval of the requested revision to the PDR zoning for this lot, subject to compliance with the following conditions. Compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in sections D, E, and F of the staff report, and also compliance with the MacArthur Park Historic District regulations. Staff also recommends approval of the requested variances to allow gravel parking and double stack parking. Item number 7, Z9152, Loudermilk Accessory Dwelling Conditional Use Permit, 221 Linwood Court. Staff recommends approval of the requested CUP, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in Section 6 of the agenda staff report. Staff also recommends approval of the requested side yard setback variances for the associated additions to the existing house. And item number 10, Z9155, Little Rock Technology Park Commercial Parking Lot, Conditional Use Permit, west side of the 400 block of Main Street. Staff recommends approval of the requested CUP, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in sections 4, 5, and 6 of the agenda staff report. That concludes the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, before we move for consent agenda, I do need to ask for a motion to waive the bylaws to allow deferral of item number 2, Z9157, to the October 6, 2016 meeting.
Second. All in favor? And all opposed? That one will be deferred.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. And now I move for approval of the consent agenda as read by staff with all their staff recommendations therein.
Second. All in favor? All opposed? The consent agenda will pass. If your item was called, you are free to go. Or, of course, you may stay and listen to the items that will be left, and Mr. Moore will name the items that are left.
On the regular agenda for public hearing, we have item number 4, for the rezoning at 1916, 1918 Perry Street. Item number 6, Platinum Self-Storage Mini Warehouse, CUP, 102 South Rodney Parham. And item number 8, Hindu Temple, CUP on Lawson Road.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Any other green cards before we get started? If you came in late, you have to have a green card if you want to speak tonight. Okay, we're going to get started on the regular agenda. Item number 4, please.
Item number 4, file number Z9158. This is property located at 1918 Perry Street, owned by Perry's Pennies LLC. Kenny Whitfield is the applicant. Perry's Pennies, owner of this 3200th of an acre located at 1918 Perry Street, is requesting to rezone the property from R2 Single Family District to R4 Two Family District. The property is located on the west side of Perry Street, north of West 20th Street. The rezoning is proposed to allow for the construction of 2 duplex structures on the site. The property is comprised of 2 platted lots. The northern lot contains a vacant, boarded-up, one-story single-family residence. Concrete drive is located at the northeast corner of the lot. The southern lot is occupied by a small vacant church building. There is a paved drive at the northeast corner of this lot leading to the building. Single-family residences are located north, south, and east across Perry Street from the subject property. Office zone property is located approximately 1 block to the north along Perry Street. Vacant lots and single-family residences are located to the west, with office zone property further west across Aldersgate Road, and Camp Aldersgate is located to the southwest. The city's future land use plan designates this property as residential low density. The requested R4 zoning does not require an amendment to the plan. Staff is supportive of the requested R4 rezoning. Staff views the request as reasonable. The property is comprised of 2 platted single-family lots. 2 duplex structures will only be a minor increase in the original platted density. New duplex structures have been recently developed within this neighborhood. Staff recently conducted a survey of the neighborhood between West 16th Street and West 24th Street, also between Aldersgate Road and Junior Deputy Road. The survey counted the total number of residential lots in the area and how many of the lots are currently zoned R4. Staff found that there are 368 total residential lots in the area, and 25 are currently zoned R4, which represents a 6.79% overall ratio or percentage of lots which are zoned R4. This proposal would raise that to 7.33%. Staff feels this is a very minimal percentage of the overall residential area, and we believe that the applicant's plan to construct two new duplex structures will be a quality infill type development for this general area south of West 18th Street. Staff believes the rezoning of this property R4 will have no adverse impact on the adjacent properties or the general area. Staff recommends approval of the requested R4 rezoning.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. May we get the applicant, please?
Chair Dillon, Board, good evening. My name is Kenny Whitfield with Nickels and Dimes, or Perry's Pennies, and we're trying to get this thing, a dilapidated home and an empty lot and an old church. And we'd like to do 2 townhouses on the properties.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Whitfield. We have 1 card. I'm sorry, we have 2 cards. So if you want to let them speak, and then you can
Okay.
see what the opposition is.
Thank you.
We have Stacy Newman.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I've been a resident in 1911 Perry Street for 8 years, and we've noticed the increase in these duplexes that have come into our neighborhood. And I'm here to share with you today some of the impacts that we've noticed, more longer-term residents that have been there, that these duplexes are having on the neighborhood itself. Currently, as it stands, our street is free of duplexes, just our particular block. What I've witnessed throughout the past few years within the neighboring blocks that contain both duplexes and rent homes is an increase in traffic on our street with disregard to the many children that are at play. There are cars crowding along our narrow, outdated streets and open ditches, especially along Wilson and 20th Streets. There's been a significant increase in the noise level, especially late at night. The average turnover in these rentals seems to be about 2 to 4 a year. The tenants don't seem to stay as long as I think that the builder was hoping that they would, or the quality. They're not given the quality that they're looking for the price that they're offering these rentals at. There's also been an increase in the police that have been called to domestic disputes around the rentals all throughout the Hicks interurban neighborhood. My family has resided in this neighborhood for 8 years, as I said, and for the very first time, we had an attempted break-in while we were away on vacation, which kind of, makes you wonder what's going on now that we're seeing this increase in rental property, even in the homes that are being rental, not necessarily just the duplexes. Adding additional rental properties in our residential neighborhood will adversely affect our property values as well. As homeowners and as a community, we invested in this property based on the condition of the area being zoned as an R2. Is that not like a contract in itself? By allowing additional areas to be zoned as R4, those of us who made our initial investment almost a decade ago are at risk for decreased property values and an increase in negative activities throughout our neighborhood. Please keep in mind, this does not only affect the community within the Hicks interurban neighborhood. It could also have a negative impact on the Good Shepherd retirement facility down the street, the Aldersgate Camp, and the Pediatrics Plus facility bordering our neighborhood as well. Pediatrics Plus was built in 2012, and this year we've seen vandalism to their little athletic playground. The basketball court was shattered, their soccer fields were torn down. These facilities serve our elderly and our special needs children, and I'd like to ask that you commissioners please keep that in mind when you're making the decision to rezone that area from an R2 to an R4. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Newman. Susan Staffield?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm a more recent, guest to the area. My fiance owns property, not on this block of Perry, but further down Perry. His family has been living in that area since before this was a part of the city of Little Rock for decades. So he's been able to watch this area change over the course of his lifespan, and I can't say that he's happy with what's happening in his neighborhood. The intention of, the R2 and this low-density zoning was for it to feel like single-family residences, to have this suburbia feel to the area. Right now, we're about to have probably 5 of them just in front of our property, right on Perry Street. We already have 25 lots in our area that are going to have duplexes already. You've already approved 25 of them in our community, and that's 7.5%. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it feels like it because they're not all in one spot. They're in these clusters, so it feels like a lot, but they're still spread out throughout the area. As already mentioned, our infrastructure is terrible. Even in discussions with Public Works throughout construction, they've even said our roads are way too narrow. We only have 16-foot wide roadways when it should be 20 feet. So with the addition of the people parking on the street, sometimes the roads are completely impassable and we'll have to turn around and find another way to get through the area. The drainage is not maintained. Our roads are flooding. We've had people falling because there's so much water and silt on their property. And I understand that that's not your purview to improve the area, but all of these higher density homes are adding strain on our already overdue to be maintained infrastructure. And finally, the sense of community is getting lost. We're trying to establish this neighborhood feeling, and when these tenants are frequently turning over, we've watched them be evicted in these brand new duplexes, it doesn't feel like we have this neighborhood. We don't have this community that we're trying to create. The noise and the speed of the vehicles flying through at night, we have now constant police, you know, in the middle of the night, catching prowlers and vandalism. We have people all over our property at night that are tenants. We know they're tenants of these duplexes. I know that you're just looking at 2 duplexes today, but please consider how this has incrementally affected this neighborhood over time. And I can't imagine that this would be the last one that's brought before you. So please help us now and stop this creep on our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Staffield. Is that it? Okay. Would Mr. Whitfield like to come back up and address the opposition, please?
First of all, we haven't had any turnover. We hadn't had any evictions. We've had one leave because they moved out of state. And as far as I know, everybody's happy. We upkeep, we mow, we take care of everything, all of our properties to the immaculate end. The city, we've been working with the city on the drainage issues. We've got those resolved, or they will be resolved. And I just feel like we moved in and we've taken that neighborhood to another notch. And as far as I know, it's about vandalism. We've been building. We've had nothing stolen from us. We've had none of our stuff's been vandalized. It's been a real smooth transition for us.
Okay. I have a question on the drainage. What is your plan?
There's a drain pipe that's up underneath the road at the bottom of the hill at Perry that's been stopped up. And I've been working with Vince in the city, and we're fixing to get the pipe cleaned out. And it's been like that for 7 or 8 years, according to the lady that lives next door to us. And so that's going to be done probably next Thursday. That's what they're telling me anyway. And then it's going to be in the process of the drain pipe being increased from a 12 to a 36. So.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
How many units do you all manage or own in that area currently?
We have 12.
12? Are there other developers or land or property owners in that area that have similar duplexes, or are they all your properties?
There's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 6.
Okay.
Commissioners, any other questions? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move for approval of item 4 with staff recommendations.
I'll second.
All in favor? And all opposed? It will pass. Thank you all for coming out. Yep, number 6. Okay, Mr. Moore, or Mr. Carney, we are ready for number 6.
Next item is item number 6, file number Z8629-B, Platinum Self-Storage Mini Warehouse, conditional use permit located at 102 South Rodney Parham Road. Conditional use permit is requested to allow for construction of a 3-story conditioned mini warehouse facility on this vacant C3 zoned 1.8 acre tract. The property was formerly occupied by a restaurant. The building has been removed and the remnants of the asphalt and concrete parking remain. Access to the site is via driveways off of Rodney Parham and Sunnymead. The site will not be gated or fenced other than for screening fencing along the south and east perimeters where the site is adjacent to residential uses. Parking will be provided on the site for use by persons accessing the office or the small number of ground floor storage units with outside access. The building is designed to have vehicles pulled through the interior for loading and unloading. Elevators will provide access to the 2nd and 3rd floors. The building will have a height of 36 feet with a parapet extending to 40 feet to screen the roof-mounted mechanical units. The C3 district has a height limit of 35 feet, so there's a 1-foot height variance. There will not be an on-site manager's apartment. Signage will consist of 2 ground signs, one on the Sunnymead perimeter and one on the Rodney Parham perimeter, as well as wall signage on the north and east facades facing Rodney Parham and Sunnymead. Site lighting will consist of wall-mounted light fixtures mounted to the walls of the building at an elevation of 9 feet above the finished floor. The lighting will be aimed downward and into the site. There will be no pole-mounted lights. The applicant proposes to use the existing dumpster location at the northeast corner of the site. The building itself will have an exterior finish of split-faced block, brick, or ephes with steel decorative panels. The colors will be earth-toned. The building will have the appearance to a great deal of an office building. There will be no outside storage of boats, campers, etc. No businesses will be permitted to operate within the storage units. Storage of flammable materials is not permitted. Office hours are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 9 a.m. to 5 on Saturdays, noon to 5 on Sundays. Tenant access to the units is 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily. There are 3 variances associated with this. The first is the previously noted 1-foot height variance. The second variance is to allow a reduction in the Rodney Parham Road perimeter street buffer from 25 feet to 15 feet. This is caused in part by the requirement to dedicate an additional 10 feet of right-of-way for Rodney Parham Road. The third variance is to allow grading within the northern 15 feet of the southern 25-foot land use buffer. The code allows an encroachment up to 30% in a buffer. The proposed 15-foot encroachment represents greater percentage. Staff does support the variances. The encroachment into the rear buffer in effect will have no effect, since all of that area other than the southernmost 5 feet is currently paved. Once this project is complete, the southern 25 feet will be landscaped where it is not currently landscaped. Staff does believe the proposed use as designed and specified is an appropriate use for the site. Staff recommends approval of the requested conditional use permit subject to compliance with the following conditions. First being compliance with the comments and conditions noted in section 4, 5, and 6 of the agenda staff report. And then, due to the proximity of nearby residences, dumpster service hours should be limited to 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Staff also recommends approval of the 3 requested variances. You did receive 2 emails that express concerns and opposition from neighborhood residents.
Thank you, Mr. Carney. We have the applicant.
Yes, my name is Robert Brown. I'm with Development Consultants, and we're here representing Platinum Construction on this project today. I think Dana outlined most of the key points. There are a few things that I'd like to touch on just to add to that. This site, as Dana said, is a prior restaurant use, and it was developed before we had some of our present ordinance requirements. This project will increase the amount of landscape area on this property by about 56%. It will have a total of about 22%, which, in my experience, most of your commercial projects meeting the ordinance wind up between about 20 and 25%. So it's right in the average there. It's a very quiet, very low traffic use. The developer states that in their other projects, they would expect a job of this size to generate on average about 13 trips a day, which is nothing compared to a by right use that could be a restaurant or bar or some other deal in a C3 zone without notifying, without going through any kind of commission approval. It's we touched on the tenant hours already, so it's, there's limited hours of operation. There will not be any ugly security fences with razor wire. There is an existing masonry wall around the southeast and southern boundary of the property that can serve as the screening requirement, which is much more substantial than a wooden fence and will last quite a while. I mean, it can be cleaned and painted and look nice. Setback-wise, on the western side, there's 0 setback required in C3. We have 12 feet. We have just under 54 feet on the north, where the requirement is 25. On the northeastern area, against the commercial zoning, there would be 0 setback requirement. And we have about 40, just under 42 feet there, or no, 52 feet. 10 foot of landscape over there, 12 foot of landscape on the west. In the rear, there is a 25-foot building setback and land use buffer. So essentially, an office building or multifamily structure could be all the way to the south, near, at the 25-foot setback line, and be 3 stories tall. This building is sitting just under 66 feet from the southern boundary. And on the eastern side, or southeastern side, we have a requirement by zoning for 15-foot setback. We've got just under 57 feet and a 15-foot landscape area in there. So essentially, with the increase in landscape space, having a new development on this site, and the quality building design, this is not a plain block building. Walter, would you flip over to the elevations quick, please? As Dana mentioned, it has, in the lower part, it will have architectural block, probably a split-faced texture. It's hard to say that. It'll have brick from there up, except for the top parapet, which will have ephes, and then the darker brown portions of the building are a decorative metal panel product. So it's high-quality materials. It's got some windows for natural lighting. And for all practical purposes, it looks pretty much like an office building with a few less windows. So we think this will be a good project, and staff is behind it and has done a nice job reviewing it. I've responded to a number of emails from neighbors that Dana has passed along, and we did have a neighborhood meeting that we offered last Saturday afternoon. We had one attendee, which is Miss Tracy Crane, who was identified by staff as the neighborhood contact person. We spent about an hour, showed her the same slides, and answered all the questions as best we could. So that'll close my part. We'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
All right. These are done, okay. Okay, Mary Julia Hill.
I'm Mary Julia Hill. I'm the president of the Briarwood Area Neighborhood Association, and I simply came to request a deferral. Shortly before this meeting started, I was informed that the Neighborhood Association was informed. Here's what happened. A letter was sent to a former president. I've been on the board for 4 years and the president for 3, and this is the very first time the city has sent anything to anyone but me. So I don't know how that glitch happened, but we heard about the project through our social media site, Nextdoor Briarwood, on the weekend. So a lot of our neighborhood is not connected to social media. We have not had the opportunity. Right now, we have one board member in the hospital and several others out of town. In the last 4 days, we just haven't had time to prepare. I apologize for the glitch, but I just don't think that it's reasonable that, I don't want to waste your time by going on, but basically we haven't been able to inform all of the neighbors who will be affected by this. We haven't been able to come to a consensus of the board members. We haven't even had the opportunity for us to meet and talk. So to whom shall I give the letter from the Banner board? Or is that necessary?
Do we want that letter, Dana? If she has a letter, you want to hand it to the staff, please?
Thank you.
Do we know why someone wasn't contacted or?
Well, that's not correct. Notice was sent. Notice was sent to the person identified by the city as the appropriate contact person for the Briarwood neighborhood. We use the list that's maintained by the housing department. It's online. You can go online and look at it today if you want to. And notice was sent on July the 19th.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
I don't
Carter.
have an answer for anything other than that.
Okay, thank you. Roberto Aquil.
Good afternoon, sir, everybody. And I'm Roberto Aki, residing at 320 Carpenter Drive, staying 8 years now there. And our street is too small, and then they're planning to use our road for their project. And I'm staying there at 8 years, but if they do the project, and my son is working in the hospital, he is night shift, so I don't know what.
And you're on what street?
320 Carpenter Drive. Ma'am.
Carpenter Drive. Okay.
And that's all what I can.
Okay, thank you. Tracy Crane.
Hello.
Hi.
I have a couple of photographs and sets of photographs, and I'd like to pass them around. I'll start at each end.
Sure.
Hello, my name is Tracy Crane. I live at 324 Carpenter Drive. I am one of the residents that's directly impacted by the facility. Do you mind if we put that on the picture that we had of the facility back up for a second? Yes. I am one of the residents who lives directly behind this, as is Roberto. And we have some great concerns about it. We are here to ask your support and vote no on it for some very, very good reasons. At bare minimum, we would like to request a deferral, but honestly, we would hope that you would just vote no. And the reasons we would ask you to vote no are pretty good, actually. And that is, number one, we have a significant drainage issue in our area. Imagine the thought that you've had to be evacuated from your home by a boat, or that you've had to swim from your house out in the middle of the street among snakes and debris and all kinds of other stuff, and how you had to do this to get to higher ground. Well, that is what has happened in our neighborhood on several occasions. We do not have adequate drainage. We have had some improvements. It is a continuing process where they are working on it, but it is nowhere near the place that it needs to be for any kind of development to take place. The Public Works has already said this is undersized for this particular project. And additionally, in addition to being undersized, we also have significant issues with debris in our drainage system, or our drainage areas. And some of those things are huge trees. Other things are things like tires and stuff like that. While many of our residents do actually get out there and clean out the drains, it remains a recurring and a constant problem for us. You put a huge tree in one of these drains, and we are overtaxing an already undersized drainage for that particular area. Now, drainage is also a concern for our primary resident. If you will look at these photographs, there is a house that is alongside this picture right here. There is a house that is alongside what they're proposing to be the private entryway of this facility. That private entryway is off of our residential street, Sunnymead. The person who lives at this house right beside the driveway, he is an elderly person, and he cannot be here today to represent himself, but he has definite concerns because The drainage that they have done here, and if you can see this from the photo, the drainage actually goes down like this. Anything that this storage facility does is going to run directly into his carport, flooding what is already a flooded area for him. Not only is it going to flood his house, they're proposing to put a sign at the corner of his front yard. And this is in the middle of a residential area. Not only is it going to flood his house, it's going to lower his property value, because who wants to buy a house that has Mr. Storage World in front of it, or, you know, Platinum Storage, or whatever it's going to be called. The other concern I would have about that is that we have a significant graffiti problem. And this right here is a look at the sign that is currently there. The sign is not in the same location that it would be. They're actually, I think, proposing to move it up toward the front yard. But this is the backyard of this person, and this is what's been done to this sign. And, you know, we don't need a sign like this, and we don't need it vandalized in the middle of our neighborhood. That's really going to be a problem. This is a picture of one of the houses. This is Rose's house. It's a very nice house. She has invested a lot in this house. She works diligently on it. She does gardening. This facility is really going to impact her ability to do her gardening and the things that she wants to do. She lives right next door to the house that's going to have the sign. It is significantly going to impact her quality of life. It's going to impact my quality of life, Roberta's quality of life, and everybody else that is around that particular block. For the reasons of, when you look at that photograph, there are windows at the top of it. This is an outdoor and an indoor facility. People can go up there and look out the window 24 hours a day and look directly into my backyard, Roberto's backyard, Rose's backyard, and everybody else's backyard. We will lose all sense of privacy. I will not be able to walk out in my backyard without knowing if somebody is looking directly at me at any given time. And that presents a lot of safety and security issues for everybody. In addition to that, I've also included another photograph. It is a sample of the additional graffiti that we have there. We have a wall, and talking about the drainage, we have a wall. It's a 6-foot wall. They're proposing to build this, it's going to be 36 to 40 feet in height. Our wall, they want to take up the pavement, landscape that area. Well, that is a very old wall. If you disturb the structure, we have no idea how it's going to impact the integrity of that wall. There has not been a noise study done. There has not been an environmental impact study done. We have no idea what to expect from this. Furthermore, we don't know how we're going to be impacted with traffic. Right now, I live in the cul-de-sac. People come in there, they turn around, and, you know, we have trucks and stuff that do that. My next-door neighbor has had his car hit by cars coming and using our cul-de-sac as a turnaround. This is going to potentially increase that significantly. And not only, there is nothing quiet about having 10 to 13 U-Hauls coming through your neighborhood at any time of the night or day. You know, you're looking at people who could possibly, you know, be driving up at 3 a.m, honking, doing any kind of things. We have no idea. The potential for noise is going to be, you know, significant. There are doors, there are steel doors, or, you know, there are outside units. I live right beside it. When those units open, they're going to make a noise. 2 a.m. if somebody's going there, if they're going to their storage facility, it's like, I'm going to hear, Who wants to hear that at 3 o'clock in the morning? I don't. Do you? And so there are a ton of issues. But, you know, there's not been a noise study. There's not been an environmental impact study. There's not been a traffic study. This is going to impact our privacy, our security. It's going to decrease property value. And overall, we have been scrambling to get everybody notified about this. I know that they said they sent out adequate notice, but it went to the wrong president. Somebody obviously hasn't updated the records, and that could be for any number of reasons, but for whatever it was, not everybody was notified. And the people that we have been able to reach out to, the people that are right there within the area, some of them, like the person who owns State Farm, the house at the corner of Sunnymead and Rodney Parham, he said that he was not notified. So there are a lot of issues here, but I have tried to bring forth the most important one. I can say that in the time that we've had on social media, we initiated a petition. There were 150 people who signed it in a matter of a couple of days. There is strong opposition to it. I did some research and I found there is a listing of 400, and Consumer Affairs has a thing about storage facilities in general, and there are 426 reviews as to why you don't want a storage facility in your neighborhood. And I'll pass this around. It has a link on it. You're welcome to copy that link and take a look at it. We would ask that you please take our safety, our security, the fact that we have severe drainage issues, the fact that there may be noise issues, the fact that there may be congestion. Right now, our streets are so crowded, you can barely get one car down it. We have people who have RVs on the street. We have people who have big trucks on the street. You can barely get one car. You start bringing U-Hauls through there, and it is a potential for accident after accident. Furthermore, is very dangerous for our children because we're going to have vans and trucks at any given time going through our neighborhood. We're not going to be able to identify them. It presents significant issues. But I ask that you vote against it. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Crane. Jacob, and I'm guessing this is Wiggs possibly? No comments? Okay. Miss Ruth Bell.
I'm Ruth Bell with the League of Women Voters, and I have questions, some of which Mr. Brown addressed, but some of which he did not. I understand that some of the storage units out of the 750 units are accessed from the outside of the building, and I was wondering how many of those units are outside units. I don't know if that's a staff question or...
Why don't we listen to your comments and we'll ask Mr. Brown to answer all of those.
Okay. And I also was curious about where the outside access units are located on the building. Are they on the shopping center side? Are they on the Sunnymead side? Are they on the Markham Street side? Where are the outside units located? And I had my question was also about the design of this structure so it would look like an office, and Mr. Brown has provided a sketch or a drawing that shows that, yes, it really could pass for an office building. My third question deals with how number of trips per day when it's fully operative, and I believe Mr. Brown said 13 trips. And I'm wondering how many of those will exit on Sunnymead. Does he have any idea? Are there going to be directional signs that encourage entering on Markham and exiting on Sunnymead, or is it up to every user to make that decision? That's about my questions.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Let's see if we can get Mr. Brown to come up and address the questions, please.
Copy of the petition. I wanted to hand
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll start with Ruth's questions here. If you look at the site plan that I provided the handouts for, you can see on the eastern side, and Walter, could you go back to the building elevation, that northeast elevation, I believe? On the eastern side, there are some units at the ground level that have outdoor access. Doing a quick count off the site plan, I think that's going to be 20 to 22 units, absolutely tops on that side. Traffic coming in from Sunnymead, looking at the map that Walter had up a second ago showing the project location, I can't imagine, we haven't had a traffic study, but I can't personally imagine why people would detour from Rodney Parham through the neighborhood and up to come in when they could just follow Rodney Parham and make a left turn. It's pretty simple. That access has been existing ever since the property was developed, so that's at least over a couple of decades. The sign that we're proposing there is a small monument sign. It's 8 feet tall, 6 feet wide, and will probably be built out of stone or block masonry. Let me see. Ms. Crane mentioned several times about concerns about disturbance from noise and hours, late night hours. Again, we've discussed tenant access will be totally limited between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. During that period at night, nobody can come in. And that will be explained to everybody when they do a lease and rental contract. Office hours will be slightly less. On the deferral request, we sent our notices out a day in advance of the deadline. We posted a sign at the front entry drive on one of the barrels. It got blown off by the storm. I went and got another sign and put a second sign up. So there's been a sign posted for at least 31, 32 days at the front entry drive. Windows, again, there's not going to be any viewing at night because nobody's going to be there at night. Traffic reduction is substantial on a project like this. Again, as I mentioned earlier, if you had restaurant use, bar, tavern, amusement, stores of some sort, lot higher use, or lot higher traffic count would be here. And that, would contribute to noise and activity, but with the hours of operation and the nature of this use, that is not the case. Drainage, I understand the neighborhood does have some drainage issues. This site is not going to cure any drainage issues, but it will have a slight reduction in intensity of runoff and volume of runoff because we're decreasing the paved and other pervious surfaces or impervious surfaces, and there'll be more landscape and a little more absorption. No detention is required because we're making a net reduction in impervious surface here, and also because the site, the way it was originally developed, when Vince looked at it, he wanted to verify if there was any, and there wasn't any detention that existed, so we're not required to maintain that. It's simply, it's less than, less paving and less rooftop than was there previously. So I did provide 2 exhibits in your package that show the estimated areas in the perimeters and the landscape from the original restaurant and what you get with the package today. So if you all have any other questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, do we have questions?
I have a question for staff, and I'm assuming the answer to this question is yes, but I feel more comfortable just clarifying it anyway. As far as the components of this building looking this sharp, being an office look, is that part of the conditions on this? If he somehow changes his mind on how the structure is going to be built, is he going to have to come back?
What we would expect to see is those colors, those materials, that building design. Anything different will cause it to have to come back to this planning commission.
Okay, thank you.
Just one question. Do you have any similar facilities like this in the Little Rock area or elsewhere that are currently operating?
No, sir. Platinum Construction is from Fate, Texas, and they do own and operate and have built several similar facilities, yes.
Okay.
And they look pretty much like what's in that image.
I need to ask a question, please. Did David Jones want to speak? Okay, I'm
Mr.
sorry, I didn't see your card. I just wanted to make sure.
That's all right. Mr. Jones is representative of the applicant who could not be here today.
Okay,
Mr. May?
go ahead with the questions. I'm sorry.
It's not gated, you said.
No, it's not.
Well, if I've got a key to my unit, what's going to keep me from coming it?
It's electronic access.
So no one can get in or out?
No.
Okay.
That's high tech.
Something else on this. I've been on this commission 3 years, and I have had the most traffic on this one other than the proposed restaurant at North University in Cantrell. And when I first heard about this, as I told you in our meeting,
The Bridge
I was
Club.
sort of neutral. Having been a resident of Leawood for some 50 years, I've been wondering what was going to happen here. But I got a direct interest the other night. My wife is in a bridge club, average age probably 80 plus. And I made a promise, a solemn promise, that I'd vote against this thing. And the more I hear about it, the more I want to vote against it. That is a strange piece of property. I don't know, as you say, this is probably the best thing that could happen to this as far as traffic goes, because Mexico Chiquita used to be there, and it had a lot more traffic than this. But we're getting an excess, from my viewpoint, of these units. We just approved one a few blocks from here where Green Tree Nursery was. We've got another one on the other side of Kroger's at Cunningham Lake Roads. It's accessed, I'm glad to hear you can't get in by computer rather than by fence. But I think the job of a commission member, which I am, is to listen to the people, and if you get a decision you don't like, you take it to the city board. But I'm going to have to vote against this for peaceful reasons, my household, number one, and most important. But number two, the more I hear about it, the less I like it.
Thank you, Mr. May. Yes, Mr. Leahy?
I was kind of confused on the time of entry in this. I thought it was around the clock, but there wouldn't be anybody working there after 5 in the afternoon, but they can't get in there. What is the possibility of you closing off that east entrance and just having one up on Rodney Parham and not be disturbing these people in the neighborhood?
I believe in the review, the fire department mentioned the need for having 2 access points on a commercial facility of this size. It could be possibly gated with a fire, like a knockdown gate or a Knox box arrangement, but that issue or question has not come up.
We use a Knox box quite often on these and stop this traffic from coming around that way. And for that reason, and with my cohort here, I'm going to have to be opposed to this. Sorry about that.
David? What do you think on the Sunnymead access? It is, but you could gate it and have a fire truck accessible gate in there. I know Sean didn't really want that, but. I don't know if you think he would accept that or not.
I'm not sure. I mean, ultimately, are you saying that if in fact there was a gate on the Sunnymead exit, that would basically allow you to have a different decision on this particular application?
It would help, but I kind of doubt it with all the other stuff we got there now. It would help. It wouldn't, if having that gate over there. I think that'd be up the neighborhood, and you should wait a minute. You should postpone it a time and visit with the neighborhood and see if they would be receptive to putting a knock box over there where people would not be going in and out all the time.
Right.
And they may have different outlook on it then, but I don't know that they will.
One of the things that I can commit to is that the owner or the developer is willing to eliminate all of the outside exit, all of the outside access doors to the 22 units that are basically opening up to the outside, so that 100% of the units can only be accessed literally through the internal portion of the building.
Now, I do like that.
And ultimately, we can make that commitment, and I have that authority to make that commitment on the record as we speak. I think that makes more sense than basically trying to figure out how we access a portion of the property via a gate and a portion of the property not via a gate. But generally speaking, we can eliminate the outside exit.
Okay, now that's amendment to an amendment to the application, so, we'll need to make sure. Okay, we will reflect that. So you are
Yes, ma'am.
doing that now, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
100% access will be from inside only.
Correct.
I have a question before you leave, unless somebody else asks.
Okay.
What kind of dollars are we spending on this project? The scope of this thing looks enormous to me, so I think it's important for us to talk about the investment in our city and all the ramifications that come from the economics of that.
Without getting into too many specifics, I'll give you a range. Basically, he's got a budget on this project of somewhere in the vicinity of $5 to $7 million. It's a significant project.
Okay. Thank you. I would ask Mr. May to go and beg the Bridge Club for forgiveness on this application. His wife particularly. I apologize to Ms. Crane. I know you've done a lot of homework, and I really appreciate that, and I appreciate your passion. However, what did we say the traffic count that we're estimating for this project is going to be on a daily basis?
The developer has stated he believes an average for this amount of square footage of approximately 13 a day.
13 a day.
So you might see, 10 to 17.
So your average restaurant is going to have close to 1,000 a day, just to give you an idea. So all the cars, all the people coming through, if it's a tavern or if it's a bar late at night, people drinking, smoking on the back porch, I mean, you're talking a lot of noise. The impacts of those effects are much more detrimental to the neighborhood, to the Bridge Club, to everybody than a completely indoor storage facility that closes at 9, that is going to be a $7 million investment in our community. I welcome personally the investment from Texas into Little Rock, and I am, although I know there was probably a lot of things that we could hope for and wish for this property, but I do agree with staff's comments that the impact on the neighborhood, especially with the exterior, we see a lot of storage facilities that look ugly, but with these type of finishes, the type of investment that they're putting into this property, and to boot that none of the doors are going to be visible. Most people that are driving by are not even going to know that it's not an office. So I would strongly support this, and I do apologize to Ms. Crane, but I just think it's going to be a good thing for our community, and I think it's better on the neighborhood than another use.
Thank you, Mr. Bevis. Mr. Leahy.
Could I ask Ms. Crane to come back up, please?
Thank you.
What's the neighborhood's feeling on eliminating full-time traffic, or putting a knock box on that east entrance and just having all their traffic going in and out on Rodney Parham? Is the neighborhood going to be agreeable to that, or are you still opposed to it?
We are significantly opposed to it, and I will pass this petition around on this side as well, so you can see some of my comments. There are 150 people in the immediate area who completely disagree with you. And we feel, you may say that it's only 10 to 13 vehicles, and that might be less substantial than other things might bring in, but we're talking about storage. People bringing storage, people with couches on the back of their truck. We're talking about U-Haul trucks. We're talking about people who are going to turn around in front of my house 10 times a day, who are going to turn around and hit my neighbor's car every other week, who are going to have a very narrow pathway.
Ma'am, You already answered my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, commissioners? We are ready for a motion, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a question of staff. How long has this property been vacant after Mexico Chiquito closed? Just, anyone know?
I don't know the exact date when the building was raised, but looking back in the Google Earth photos where you could look back in time, the building disappeared somewhere between 2010 and 2012.
Okay.
So 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And right now, it's got a lot of trash and debris
Sure.
on it because it's not been maintained very well.
Yeah, before I make my motion, I do want to echo Commissioner Bubba's. You know, a change to land use that's abutting a neighborhood is a lightning rod for all kinds of issues that had sometimes nothing to do with the application. But, you know, the measuring stick to me, and I think we see this often, is not what the change will be against what is going on there now, which is a vacant use and no traffic. This is what anyone can do by right without triggering a hearing, without having to ask a neighborhood. You know, you mentioned bar and tavern or restaurant. A hospital can go in there. Hotel, motel can go in there. I love this college fraternity. I like to hear the discussion on that one. A school can go in there and multifamily dwellings. So it's really a measuring against what are the alternative scenarios for this property. And so with that, I'm going to make a motion to approve this application as filed. Do the variances need to be voted on separately, or are they part of the package?
Part of the same.
Okay. Along with the amendment that's committed and agreed to by the applicant to make all the access interior, and there will be no exterior or outside access, and with all staff recommendations therein.
All in favor?
Thank you all.
All opposed?
Bill?
Somebody has to pay for this divorce, I probably know.
The item will pass. I know. We now have time for citizen, that was it, right? Oh, we got the big one, sorry, okay. Wow, I was done. We are ready for item number 8, please.
Madam Chair, before I make my presentation, could you possibly explain to the audience how the timing works on the?
Yes. Each side, the applicant and the opposition, has 20 minutes each. And that is everyone that wants to speak. We have lots of cards, 10 cards. So we don't care if you have an order you want to go in. We're happy to call it in that order. But you have a total of 20 minutes. The applicant then can come back up and address the opposition within his 20 minutes also. But you'll have 20 minutes. So if there's an order, just let me know. Okay?
Item number 8, file number Z9153, Hindu Temple of Central Arkansas conditional use permit, proposed to be located at 19430 Lawson Road. The property is located outside of the city limits. It is within the city's zoning jurisdiction. If you look at the zoning map that's posted, Lawson Road is the perimeter of the city's zoning jurisdiction. The properties on the south side of Lawson are outside of our zoning jurisdiction. And then just a little bit to the west off the map would be the very western boundary. So this is about as far as you can go west and still remain within our zoning jurisdiction. The property is currently occupied by a one-story log single-family residence and a couple of outbuildings. Access to the site is via a 30-foot road and utility easement, which passes through the parking lot of a closed commercial business and across the front of 4 single-family residential properties to provide access to this 6-acre tract. Hindu Temple of Central Arkansas is requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow for construction of a place of worship. The applicants propose to construct a temple building and asphalt parking and drives for 57 vehicles. The existing residential structure will be used as housing for the priest, who will also be the caretaker of the property. The temple building will be 1 story in height with an area of 2,963 square feet. An architectural element similar to a church steeple will be constructed on top of the building in a future phase. This ornamental element will have a total height of 42 feet, or approximately 19 feet above the building. The temple will have a seating capacity of 200 persons and will be constructed with an exterior finish of split-face block, brick, and siding. The buildings will be placed near the center of the tract and will have approximate setbacks of 100 feet from the north, 200 feet from the south, 150 feet from the west, and 400 feet from the eastern perimeter. The site is fairly heavily wooded, and undisturbed wooded areas will be retained along the northwest and east perimeters. A 6-foot-tall privacy fence will be placed on the site's perimeters. Signage is proposed to consist of a small ground-mounted sign at the Lawson Road end of the 30-foot road easement. All site lighting will be low-level and directional, aimed downward and into the site. The dumpster location and screening have been indicated at the rear of the parking lot, and dumpster pickup hours will be limited to Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. No outdoor use areas are proposed. The applicant is aware and has acknowledged that septic system approval from the Health Department has to be provided to staff prior to commencement of construction, and final plans must be submitted to staff for review and approval prior to construction as well. The temple will be open from 8 a.m. to noon and 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. on weekdays and from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on weekends. Attendance during the week is anticipated to be fairly low, consisting of 10 to 20 people and 4 to 5 vehicles. During weekends, there may be 50 to 75 people or 20 to 30 vehicles. During festival holidays, there can be up to 100 people and about 35 to 40 vehicles. While staff acknowledges that the applicants have done a good job of addressing staff issues and the site plan for the 6-acre tract appears to comply with ordinance criteria for site development, we're unable to support this specific proposal for a place of worship on this specific site. As has been previously noted, access to the site from Lawson Road is only provided via a very substandard 30-foot wide road and utility easement across the front of 4 single-family residential properties. The road easement contains a small amount of asphalt and varying degrees of gravel and hard-packed dirt extending to the subject property. It's questionable whether these applicants even have the ability to make any improvements in that easement to provide what would typically be required for proper access, since the easement is located on the approaching single-family lots and not on their property. Putting any use on this 6-acre tract that will generate traffic levels proposed by the applicant will, in staff's opinion, negatively impact the single-family residents whose homes are located on the road easement. Staff believes the proposed use would be more appropriate if it were actually located on Lawson Road on the public street, rather than at the end of this substandard road easement. Incidentally, there is a house of worship, a church located on Lawson Road, just at the end of this road easement. It's on the south side of the road. Based on concerns regarding access and the potential negative impact on the other properties, staff cannot support the proposed conditional use permit, and staff does recommend denial of the application.
Thank you, Mr. Carney. May we get the applicant, please?
Thank you for having us here, Commissioners. This is a unique project, as you know, so please bear with me as I introduce myself, the organization, the people, and the project. My name is Sabita Rajan. I'm a committee member of the Hindu Temple of Central Arkansas. Along with my husband, I've lived here for 27 years and raised 2 kids. who both were born and brought up here and graduated from Central High. One of them just finished his doctorate, and the second one is in medical school here in Kansas City. After working for 22 years in UMS, I'm now a business owner, and I'm also on the. I've also been appointed by our current governor on that advisory committee for gifted and talented education. So, can we have some of the slides? So, if you're wondering who we are, I guess some of you cannot see behind there. So, I'm just going to read this out for you. We are a group of Indian Arkansans who now have deep roots in Central Arkansas, with the second generation born and brought up here. Our Indian community continues to contribute significantly to the development of Central Arkansas. We have been leading efforts in small businesses, hotels, restaurants, industries. We are attorneys, physicians, financials, bankers, etc., in all fields. We have been active in the community to uplift the Arkansans, providing health care for the needy, for the free health care for those who need. We have also been promoting education, technology, among other things. Currently, we have been using church facilities in various parts of Little Rock to promote our culture and heritage. Our community has grown significantly, and it is getting harder for us to coordinate our activities with the church activities, and often have been renting places despite inconvenient timings. Our community now has grown to where we need a place of our own. Just a brief introduction about India and Hinduism. India is a secular country where all religions in the world are practicing in peace. The majority of Indians practice Hinduism, although a sizable population belong to Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Sikhism, and any other religion you can think of. It's one of the, Hinduism is a way of life for most people. It is also the oldest practicing religion in the world. The first sacred writings of Hinduism have dated back to 1200 BC. In the 20th century, Hinduism began to gain popularity in the West. Its different worldview and its tolerance for diversity in belief made it an attractive alternative for traditional religion. So, as Mr. Carney has already explained, what we propose to do with this lot, it's going to be a 3,500 to 4,000 square feet building, maximum occupancy of 200 people, hours 8 to 12 on weekdays, and 4 to 8 in the evenings, and then on weekends 8 to 8 p.m. The traffic expected is about 5 to 10 people over the weekdays, about 3 to 5 cars. Weekends, 30 to 50 people, 10 to 20 cars. Event days, similar to Christmas or Easter, about 80 to 90 people and about 30 cars. So we offer prayer in many different ways, and this may include but not limited to silent meditation, singing of hymns, recital of verses, and dances. We are looking for a peaceful piece of land not up front on the road for various reasons, to keep away from traffic, which is typical road, and keep away from typical roadside environment for security and meditative methods of worship. Like churches, all temples in the U.S. are built in very residential neighborhoods, and in a very similar location as this 6.3-acre property, away from main roads in all the cities of U.S. actually. They're away from the main roads and shared neighborhoods. This facilitates our meditative approach of prayers, keeping away from the roadside. So as Mr. Carney had already mentioned, there's a church right across. There are 4 homes, and we will develop the street, the 30-feet street, so we can, their properties will also go up in value and have easy access. Right now, it's not, that's not the case. So I would call upon Mr. Bunny Brown and Dana to continue about the structure.
I'm Bunny Brown with Jackson Brown Palkuik Architects. We're working on this facility, and you know, the property access is only the 30-foot shared easement. However, we're looking at doing whatever all-weather road improvements that we can do and utilities improvements that we can do within that buffered, within that easement access that would improve for all parties adjacent to that roadway there. We have really exceeded city requirements along for buffering, setbacks, and access, partially to be good neighbors and partially because of the method of worship that is done here within the serene, private environment, which is what they were looking for. You know, stormwater detention and everything would be managed on site. And the parking, I think one of the things, the vehicular traffic, and correct me if I'm wrong, but unlike more Christian worship where everybody's coming for this service at this time, this volume is throughout that period of time. So on
Typically, that's true.
yeah.
Yes.
So it's not like, 8 a.m. on Sunday morning, this place is going to be flooded and then return. It's going to be, they will come and worship at their leisure, at their time. So it's not a bombardment of traffic, and the volume is really limited. Of course, landscaping, both within and around the perimeter, will be maintained. I'll let Dana talk about this.
I'm Dana Vickerson from Jackson Brown Pelkulik. Go back to the plan. Yeah. So we just wanted to run through architecturally real quick what we're proposing to do. On the screen you'll see the floor plan. So it's just an open temple. There are altars on the sides and the main one in the back, which will have the steeple added at a later date. Everyone will come through the front. Oh, sorry. The bathrooms are located in a separate building, which you'll see at the top. So really, it's just a simple floor plan, open space area for worship. These are the front and the back facades. So that's kind of the front entry. We're looking at concrete block kind of on the bottom areas with brick and cementitious siding. And then these are the side elevations, which you kind of see the dashed area where we would be adding possible steeple in the future. None of this would really be visible from the houses because, as we explained, there's lots of fencing and planting.
Okay, thank you. We will start with the cards. Is there anyone that wants to go first? Okay, and your name is?
Jeanette Mann.
Okay, Jeanette.
Madam Chairman and Commissioners, my name is Jeanette Mann. I live on Lawson Road. I have received a certified letter pertaining to these people wanting to build. I have a driveway, which was really actually a private driveway because it was all family. And 30 years ago, my husband built all those homes, 4 homes. 30 years ago, one of my daughters asked to let a well-built or a Jim Walter home be built. At that time, I gave her a right or easement in order for them to go up and build that house. That's why it became an easement at that time. But I have been out there for 60 years. I've raised all of my children. It's been handed down from the Mann family. This is where my husband was born and raised, in this very spot that I live today. And I mean, I see no reason. There's only one way up this drive. You only got one way up. There's no way out. It comes right back down. And I have utilities that cross over into my daughter and son, that crosses over the driveway into their houses. Because when it comes up the driveway, it's all family. And this is the only way that you have in and out of this drive. I have grandchildren, great-grandchildren, but all family live there now. There's 4 families of us, that's there, 5, that still live there. We have been there for this period of time, 60 years. And I don't see a reason. I object to any rezoning or a conditional permit, because it would really put a big burden going up and down this driveway. I mean, I've got utilities crossing this drive over to my daughters, over to my sons. But I have brought a petition, and I would like to present it before the board, if I may. And, but I'm totally against it because there's no way in, no way out. I mean, I have children, great-grandchildren, and I've been there for a period of 60 years. And this is my son, but if I may, I'd like to present this to the board.
Yes, you
Who
may.
may I give it to? Anybody? Mr. Leahy. But I see no reason why that we would have a building in the back of the woods. It joins right at the back of my house. It joins against my neighbor, which she will speak. Also, it joins all around us at the very back of our house. It can't be seen from the road. And the thing about it is, you've only got one way up, one way out. And it would be really an inconvenience for our families that are already there. For housing, it was all for housing, but for any, zoning for commercial or for conditional permit use, I am totally against it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Mann. Do you want me to just now go in the card order, or is there someone else that would like to go? Okay. I'm Felix. Okay.
I'm Felix Pryor, and the back of my property butts up against their property line. And what I'd like to say is, Commissioners, is that we do have a little quiet family compound with children, only one way in and out on our little country lane that has a very country feel to it, virtually no traffic. Anybody that comes and visits me at my house always comments how quiet it is, how there's nothing coming in and out all the time. I've actually took a picture, if y'all would like to see it, from Lawson Road, looking up the driveway, and it's quiet. You can't see it throughout. The only noise we have is the occasional fire truck going by, and no other traffic up in the compound. And that's basically what I have to say. I am worried about my property values, but that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor. Okay, do we have someone that, okay,
Pat Tibbet, or Patricia Tibbet, I go by Pat.
okay.
I'm the oldest of the bunch. 6 brothers and sisters, and yes, we all live around each other. So I have to laugh at Chuck when he calls it a compound. I have grandkids, and I have children, and some of the pictures you've seen, they'll show you the hedges, so if traffic comes in and up, we feel comfortable letting them out in the yard and play, so we don't have to run back and forth and checking on them. I don't believe there should be any commercial or rezoning back there. I would like to keep it, as I promised my dad when he died, keep the family together, which sometimes I know that's not good. But, and my husband is retired, disabled, stroke, heart attack, cancer patient. So he's on one hand of me, and my mother, who's 81, is on the other hand of me. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, just let them go in their order.
I'm Patsy Sorrells, and their building is going to be right at the back of my house. And I do not want that because it will drive the taxes up. My husband passed away last year. I'm on a fixed income, and I cannot afford more taxes.
Thank you, Ms. Sorrells. Okay, Dustin Smith.
I'm Dustin Smith. I've lived there 43 years. I live west where it says R7A there, I believe is what it says. I hunt the property to the right, which is where it says this side at. Up the far side, there's about 60 acres there that I do hunt. My kids, my grandkids all play, ride bikes here, up and down Watches Beecham Road there, which some people call it Beauchamp. probably 25, 30 years of my life, they've had the store there on the front corner. Where they're proposing to put the road in has always been a private drive. When they built the store, when they asphalted across their private drive up to the fence. They have been a great asset to the community and stuff, but do not see a reason for a temple being here in the private wooded area. They say 42 feet. I don't know a privacy fence that'll build 42 feet where I won't see the top of the building. You know, I do live west of the property. When they do clear this, I will be able to see it. I won't probably be 650, maybe 700 yards from the facility. I just don't believe that this is a quiet neighborhood. It needs to be there. You know, I wouldn't, if they were building on the corner of Lawson and Beecham, I wouldn't complain about it, because I believe it needs to be out seen on the front of the road, not hid back in the, you know, they're great people. I got nothing against them. I just don't believe this is the place for a temple. If it was a church, want to go in there, a Baptist church, I wouldn't want it there. Not in my community. Like, it move it out to the streets where people can see it, where it's easier accessed. I mean, you talking about, she's talking about the utilities back and forth. She's going to be out the money to remove her utilities, to have them replaced properly on each side of the road if this goes through. And that's a burden to their family. They were talking about 57 parking spots, 200 people, I believe is what they said, on certain events. Most American families, usually 2 people to a car. That's still 100 cars. There's 30-something parking spots not available. I don't believe the facility is really big enough for that type of an event. Unless they want to add parking spots later, I believe it's going to be a noise issue with cars. I was told between 200 and 500 cars over time would be, you know, in and out of this facility. Lawson Road is pretty busy from the traffic when there's road construction around. It's pretty tough to get up and down at times early in the mornings. After about 9 o'clock, yeah, it's peaceful. Between 3 and 5, it gets crowded again, or a little after 5. But, you know, the side roads, yeah, they're nice and quiet. It's a real peaceful community. I've been there 43 years, and I enjoy it. But I mean, I oppose the conditional permit and the facility being there. I think it needs to be somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Johnny Mann?
Well, I'm not a speaker, and I don't like speaking before people, but that land go back to, I believe, 1907, from my great-grandpa and my grandpa and my dad and me, all carry the same name, Johnny Mann. And I just recently moved away, and we had a store for 21 and a half years, Paul's One Stop and Restaurant. And my dad passed away in 2003. And again, I'm not for any commercial building being back behind my sisters and my moms and my brother. I just don't think that it's a narrow drive. And there's not much room there. And my niece and nephew, they play there. And I just think it's not good. We had a 240 dairy farm cattle. And of course, they closed, they sold the cattle many years ago. But again, I just don't believe that that's the place to build it behind the homes, and it's a small, narrow driveway. So I'm against it also.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. Jim Alexander? Gina Alexander? Jim? Jen?
Madam Chairman, Commissioners, I'm one of the sisters. Like they all told you, we've been on this land for over 60 years. I think that it should stay residential. I don't see no reason to have to turn it into commercial, and I hope you'll vote against it with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. William Tibbet?
I'm sorry, I'm not gonna hobble up there or maybe fall in your floor. I just wanted on record that I'm against this. This is strictly private property, family owned. Nobody but family lives up it. I've been on the property since '03 when their dad passed away. I promised him at that time I'd do my best to help take care of the property, and I've done that. Take care of the biggest part of it. And I see absolutely no reason for a temple or any other business to be up a private drive behind 4 homes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Tibbet. Lester Roberts.
I was not going to speak, but I will.
Well, please come to the microphone if you
I
can.
will say that I'm against this project.
State your
I'm
name.
friends of theirs, and I'm definitely against it.
Okay, thank you. Molly Roberts.
Yeah, my name's Molly Roberts, and I've known them for many, many years when their kids were little growing up out there, and I don't see that there's enough room out there for a temple. It's private, probably owned by this family, and I think it should stay that way. I oppose it.
Thank you. That's it with the cards. Okay, can we get the applicant back up, please, to address the opposition?
Okay. The property that Miss Jeanette Mann owns is for sale currently. She was willing to sell it to us. We met with her, and she was willing to sell it to us. And that is that main commercial building with 2 back houses. So that would take 3 of those away from that 4 here. 4 houses here. So her price was a little higher because it's a 3.6 acre. She sent us the plan, and we had a detailed conversation with her. And I went there with the realtor first time and then by myself and met with her. And it is right now on sale. So we could not afford the price at that time, so we considered the property, also we did not want the commercial property up front, so we chose to have the property at the back. So the houses are also old. Whoever buys it, because it is for sale right now, will probably demolish and build something else, probably a church or something different. So also as far as the driveway, we plan to make it a double 2 car driveway, and we will take care of the easement and develop that road. And I did offer to meet with each of the neighbors, either one-on-one or in a group across, in the church across, and talk to them about it, but I did not hear back. I only heard back from Mr. Felix, and I responded to him via email. So if there is any concern, we are willing to address that. But I sincerely hope each one of you here would consider our request, because that property belongs to the family, but not anymore because it is on sale. And the one at the back is for sale, their own sister selling it. She was willing to sell it to us, the front property, and now there is a change of mind. So I really request you all, each one of you, to really consider this. We need a place, and we have worked very hard and we have spent a lot of money on this already. So I hope you will approve this.
Thank you.
Just a few of the other items, the utilities and the easements, we will maintain or improve as is required for the use of the of utilities to the new facility, and if that requires new tie-ins and new services to the existing structures along there, certainly that would be done as well. The noise and visibility issues, I think there was a comment about if it was on the corner of the road. Their method of worship is a little different, in which they're looking for a quiet place. They're not wanting the big church front as would be more traditional with some others. This is the visibility versus the 6-foot fence, the heavily wooded area we're trying to maintain around the perimeter of this facility. So there's going to be a lot of natural screening that will be maintained where it can be. And this easement drive is the only access currently to this property. So, you know, whatever would ever become here, currently, this is the only access to that point. And then I heard 200 to 500 cars, which is contrary to anything that we've ever understood from our client. Thank you.
Yes.
So we mentioned on event days like Christmas or Easter, we will probably have about 70 to 90 people, probably 25 to 30 cars max. So, and that is not on a regular basis or every month or anything like that. Thank you.
Y'all can't come back up. I'm sorry.
I thought we had full 20 minutes though.
Well,
That's what I'm asking, and then we had, still got 9 minutes.
yes, I do realize that. Okay, come on.
I would like to ask, what's the height of the building gonna be compared to the privacy fence? We have several facilities coming from Little Rock, out Colonel Glenn, west. Abandoned buildings of, like, used to be a Crystal Hill grocery store there by the church on further out East Lawson. Their store, which is, closed down. We have a few stores on Colonel Glenn that have closed down over the years. We have abandoned or setting commercial sites that could be church sites, not out in the middle. All of our churches in our communities are on corners of streets or out on the streets. We don't have any churches or facilities that you drive through a subdivision or a community like this to get that far back in the woods. And I'd like to know the height of the building compared to the privacy fence, and how do you cover the 42-foot steeple that they're gonna put on it, where I don't see it within 700 feet of my house.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to address that?
Well, the initial height of the structure is going to be relatively low. They do plan at a future date to add a steeple-type element of about 42 feet. Obviously, the 6-foot fence and the 42 feet that would be visible under normal conditions, but we also have about a 200-foot setback from one side, 100 and something from another side. It's set way inside of a heavily wooded existing area in which we're to maintain as best we can.
Heavily wooded area is right where you're gonna put your temple.
Yeah.
Great number of large oak trees that will be taken out for any buildings or parking areas that go up there.
And then from my back door, all the woods have been cleared. My husband took care of that.
Commissioners, do we have questions? Okay.
I want to begin by saying that I went to India in October, and my personal experience was overwhelming. We went into homes, and we were treated with such honor and such respect, and the culture there is, they very much value that. They would sit in the floor and give us the seat of honor and let us sit in the chair. And I want to begin by saying that. And I think that sometimes this is obviously not a fun job, and I would recommend any commissioners to never go to the bathroom when someone you just voted against is exiting. It's not a very smart move. So this is not always a fun job doing this. So, but I will say that I do agree with staff's comments on this. In my opinion, this road coming to the property is really a driveway for all these residential properties. And as a driveway, it's not designed to accommodate a church. It's not a public road. It's not a road that is intended for this kind of use. And we've talked about the number of cars and the number of people up to, I think it says 100 in the packet. I think you said 75 just then. But we don't know if we go through with this, what's it going to be like in 10 years? If the temple grows, are we going to have 300, 400? Is it possible that down the road that the church could grow? I think it is a possibility. And my contention is it's the fit. When we look at these things as commissioners, we have to evaluate, is it a good fit? Does it fit with the property? And to me, I agree with staff that the drive is not appropriate and with all the factors considered for a church property. And I'm sorry, but that's my opinion.
Okay, even though we would develop it, you still don't think we would develop the driveway?
I think the property is a residential property and has a residential drive to it, and it's surrounded by houses that are going to be occupied by families with children, and they're going to treat their driveway like a driveway, not like a commercial drive. And I think a church property needs a commercial, more like a commercial drive that's equipped to handle the amount of traffic necessary for a church property. And I think there are probably other properties probably that it would be a better fit.
Yes, Mr. May.
I think this is strictly a easement issue, and I think that this is rural land, more for a cattle farm or a row crop farm where maybe a truck or two during harvest season or whatever, but I can't see anything where it would attract a crowd. It's just not set up for that. This is for lawyers about easements. You have to give a person the right to the property, but I think our job is to get the right fit for the property use, and I think this is a wrong fit for that piece of property.
Yes, Ms. Finney.
I'd just like to state, too, that I agree with what's been said. I have no problem with the temple going in. I just think that's the wrong fit for that neighborhood.
Anyone else? Any other questions, comments? Okay, we are ready for a motion.
No, I'm good. Alan spoke for me.
Madam Chair, just one comment. Before I make a motion, I do want to tell Ms. Samitha Rojan I appreciate her citizenship and the fact she put her kids through my Molitor in public schools and my kids on Molitor at Central High. But there is a compelling public interest here, and I think it's very important to state for the record because it is a higher bar when you have an applicant that's a church, a house of worship, that we have to state that compelling public interest, and that really is the lack of good public access. And I appreciate your efforts in the site planning and finding a park-like setting, but I really think you're going to have to find some solutions elsewhere that can at least try to achieve that, but it's going to be, be hard. But public access is really the issue here. And I would say that for any institution, doesn't have to be a house of worship, any institution, if it were to try to site back there, I think this would be very problematic. So I'm not placing a burden on you any more than I would on any other institution that was applying for this kind of a permit. So with that, I always have to move in the affirmative, so I move for approval of the application as written, except that for staff's recommendation of denial.
All in favor? And all opposed? Will not pass. Thank y'all for coming. Yes, ma'am, that's what it means. I know it is. Thank y'all for coming out. Do we have any citizen communication? No. We are adjourned.